My name's Noah Bassil. I'm a lecturer in the Department of Politics and International Relations, or actually in the Department of Modern History, Politics and International Relations, but specifically in the discipline of politics and IR. What I'm going to do today, I hope you'll allow me to say a few things about the study of politics, why it's important, what some of the key concepts might be that you'll come across if you undertake a major in politics and international relations, a little bit about my own interests, then some discussion of the type of units that you might take in a program in the discipline, some skills you'll learn, and some potential career outcomes for you if you do pursue the politics and international relations program. I've got a few slides up there which I think give a sense that politics is, of course, about political parties, elections, governments, but it's also much more than that. And I think that'll become clear as I go through and say a few things about what we teach and how we go about teaching in politics and international relations. Now, we are constantly told, and I've got here that this is an age of globalisation. We're constantly told that we live in such an age, a time where space and time and communications are compressed in a way that's far greater than any time in history. We believe it's a period of limitless opportunities, potential, but it's also a time of quite serious threats to our security and to our way of life. It's that combination, that contradiction between the potential, the limitless potential, and the sense of insecurity that I think is very much at the core of studying politics and international relations. To some extent, we as a race, as a collective around the world, have the potential to do many things, solve the myriad problems that we face, as whether it's poverty, whether it's insecurity, whether it's environmental issues. But at the same time, as we pursue our certain goals, whether they be economic, whether they be cultural, political, we seem to constantly undermine the very basis of the lives that we enjoy. Which problems and how we face up to them is what politics and international relations is fundamentally about. So whether we're talking about stem cell research or the war on terror, we are talking about issues that are inevitably political. Free trade, race relations, student movements, nuclear meltdowns, financial crisis, and anyone who's been following the discussions about the Winter Olympics will know that even sport has a political dimension to it as well. In a degree with a major in politics and international relations, what you learn is the ability to identify, understand, explain the political dimensions of the world you and I live in. I myself, I might just move forward, and this is a little captures just a little bit the sort of extensive nature of the study of politics. The issues of poverty, privilege, inequality are very much intertwined with what we study. I myself have an interest in the politics of the Middle East and North Africa. That's what I specialise in. My work concentrates on the power relations that have in the past and continue to shape the contemporary Middle East and North African region. Now, this is just a map of the modern Middle East. I use this in my first introductory lecture when I teach Middle East politics because this, even on a level of geography, there's a great deal of politics about defining what a region is. Many people who look at the Middle East, whether it be governments, whether it be NGOs, whether it be people within the Middle East themselves, really dispute the extent of this region. Some people include Iran, as this map does, and Turkey, others don't. Some don't include Sudan, Ethiopia, Somalia, and others do. So there's a real political dimension to even how we understand the regional dimension of the world that we live in, the geographical aspects of it. These are very much based on political issues. Turkey, more recently, is more increasingly being included in discussions about the Middle East, because since about 2003 maybe a little bit later in some people's opinion, Turkey has taken an increasingly larger role in influencing affairs in the Middle East. After 60 or 70 years of looking towards Europe, Turkey's taken a very different perspective in the last decade or so. And for that reason, more recent commentaries on the Middle East tend to include Turkey in it. So just on a geographical level, we can see how politics plays a part in shaping what we know about the world. Politics, whether local or global, is about power. One common definition is that politics is about who gets what and when, and who makes decisions about such allocations. Certainly politics encompasses this notion of resource allocation, but as I've already said, it's more than this. It's more about who gets what, when, and by whom. It's about how we think about our collective selves. Identity is a major component of the study of politics, because identities are shaped by power relations. As we know from the debates of the last 10, 15 years here in Australia, the question of what is Australian identity has been intensely political and has shaped relations in multiple ways. There have been milestone speeches, Paul Keating's 1993 Redfern speech, for example, speech by John Howard in the late 1990s about the Black Arm Guard history of Australia, have set the tone of how we think about ourselves and how we think about relations here in Australia. The issue of gender relations in Australia, but also globally, has much been in the news over the last few years. Anyone who's been following Australian politics will know how central questions about gender relations have been, at least since the late part of last year, but certainly many would say much longer than that. Power, understood as being more than who gets what, when, and by whom, is a difficult concept, which is at the central to the discipline of politics and international relations, and will be one that you engage over and over again as you go through the program. Another of the key concepts in the study of politics and international relations is the state. The state is more than the government and less than the nation. The state, as we know here in Australia, we had an election this time last week. Government has changed, but the state effectively has remained intact. The bureaucracy, the administration, the ideology, the bureaucratic elements of the state remain intact. They may change in tone or in some of their structure, but ultimately the Australian state will outlive individual governments. But because it is at the level of the state that power relations are often produced and pursued, scholars of politics and international relations devote much time to understanding the history of the formation of states and the structures, systems, personnel, and operation of states. In my own work, I look at the state, and in particular the crisis of post-colonial states in the modern Middle East, as I said. I look at the way that power relations at the global, regional, and also at the local level shapes the actions of Middle East and North African actors, such as the political and economic elites of the region, various social movements, dissidents, and intellectuals. I was drawn to study the region because of the incredible fascination I have with the historical. You can see some of the elements of the historical, political, economic and cultural forces in the region, colonialism, anti-colonial nationalism, the artificial nature of the state, as we watch the events unfold in countries like Sudan and Syria and Iraq, where people fight each other for control of the state, some of the explanation of that can come from the historical formation of those states, formed out of colonialism, bringing people together that have had independent histories and independent political structures for many centuries. The Cold War, which some of you may not remember because you were born after its end, just over 2 decades ago. But for those who lived through it, still an incredibly powerful way of explaining the different relations at the global and at the regional level in the Middle East. Underdevelopment and dependency, the economic relations that these countries have with each other within the boundaries of each state, but also globally, and how they're dependent on richer countries for their economic capacity. And lastly, authoritarianism, something that we've seen shaken dramatically in the Arab Spring just over 2.5 years ago, where dictators who for many decades had ruled over individual Middle Eastern countries in places like Libya, in Egypt, in Tunisia, were toppled by people on the streets. For me, fascinating, really interesting dynamics at work, where the historical and contemporary political and economic cultural forces have converged and collided to create the sort of events that we've seen in recent years. And these are the sort of events, the sort of issues that will be very much at the forefront of a degree in politics and international relations, whether it's the Middle East, Africa, our own region here, or in the area of Latin America, where there's been much upheaval over recent decades. Closer to home, we've just experienced our own form of political upheaval. Australian politics, as I said, our election a week ago saw a change of government. On the face of it, it may not seem to resemble at all the politics of the Middle East. And watching the images from Syria or Egypt, we can be thankful for that. However, there are some similarities. There are certainly some elements of the power relations that occur in countries that are that are involved in quite violent events, and those that occur here in Australia. We should not be complacent about the complexity of our own politics. Power, interests, ideology, inequality and privilege are as evident in Australian politics as they are in any other part of the world. Studying politics and international relations will give you the conceptual and contextual knowledge to explain the world, whether it be the nature of the Australian political system or that of the Middle East. And there's a very brief, but I think quite powerful definition of the state. As I said before, more than the government, clearly, less than the nation being the combination of the state and its population. However, and that's a lot about the concepts and the ideas and the issues that you'll engage as you go through a politics and international relations major. But the other aspect, the really important aspect of what you also learn when you go through such a program are skills, vital skills that you need in the rest of your life, which are valued highly in professional life, whether it be here in academia or in the rest of our society. The skills that come with studying politics and international relations are numerous. I've listed them there. Analysis, the capacity to look at material and to synthesize ideas from it, to be able to extract key points and understand the meaning of quite sophisticated material that you'll come across. Critical reflection on that material, forming logical and informed arguments, communicating those ideas and arguments in both written and verbal forms, independent research skills, rigour especially accuracy and intellectual honesty, really important skills that we know are valued in the workforce. The combination of deeper understanding of the major ideologies, policies and practices that structure life, whether it be consumerism, citizenship or conservation, combined with the skills of critical reflection and presentation of ideas, provide students with what is needed to be socially responsible members of society, as well as being competitive in the employment marketplace. We've had many students over the years that I've been here who have said that that their employers have valued not only the more tangible skills that they acquire, the knowledge from their degree, but also the capacity to be a good citizen and to know what is expected in the workplace. To us, it's clear why this is the case. It is because these are not two separate dimensions of an individual, but in fact they are sides of the same coin. So I'm just going to sum up very briefly with a look at our program and the sort of subjects that you would take. We tend to see our programs being streamed into three areas. The first is Australian politics, and these are a selection of the units that we offer in the Australian politics stream. The second is political theory, and it's a smaller stream but also has a number of key units that overlap and also interrelate with those in the Australian politics stream and also in our biggest stream, which is international relations. And here are the range of units that we offer in that particular stream. Now, whilst these are certainly seen as parts of a larger program, many students decide to take units across the three streams to ensure that they have a good knowledge, a capacity to understand all three aspects of the broad discipline of politics and international relations. It's worth saying that in your first year, most students take 2 out of 3 of our first year units if they intend to do a major in politics and international relations, either Australian politics Australian politics, 2 out of the 3 of Australian politics, thinking politically, which is the political theory stream, and introduction to global politics, which I myself teach and I can tell you is a fantastic unit to take. So there is a great deal of variety in the program as well, and I think that's one of its strengths. And finally, just the sort of career opportunities that arise from undertaking a major in politics and international relations. And you can see there that political parties, working in the bureaucracy for agencies like AusAid, DFAT, very popular with students who go through our program. NGOs, Oxfam, United Nations, which is an international institution but has sort of elements of it that operate, like UNESCO or UNICEF, similar to NGOs, and transnational corporations that often are looking for people to be able to understand, examine and explain the political environments in different countries in which they do or might want to do business in the future, especially in an age when business operations cross boundaries all the time. Political journalism remains a vibrant field and again has domestic and international possibilities for people with a background in politics and international relations. And overall, I think that one of the things that a major like this does is it provides you with a vast expanse of opportunities because you know the world and you know how to explain it to others. And it's for these reasons that I think, to sum up or to conclude, makes studying politics such an attractive proposition.